That's all right. I'll stand up anyway. I've been sitting long enough. I need to stand up. I just love this shirt. It's so cute.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Yvonne Mason, and with Mary Brotherton with All Things Books and Publishing, and Mary showing off her shirt with the kitty cats and the Christmas hat because it's the silly season. So, Mary and I were talking before we went live, and so many things are happening because God is driving this train. Now, y'all may get sick of my saying it, but I'm not going to stop saying it because God is the one that put us here for this purpose, and He's always going to get the credit. This is the only publishing house in the world, and I can say that pretty matter-of-factly, that offers writers and authors the opportunity to be published, marketing, formatted, graphics, book covers without any charge at all. And you go, yeah, there's a kick. No, honey, there's no. Ask this lady because she's also one of my authors. We don't charge our authors for anything that we do for them. And just before we get started on today's fun-filled and exciting things to know, let's start with the demographics of where the YouTube channel is being seen I just lost Mary. Okay, Mary needs to come back. She stopped recording. There she is. No, she went away again. Maybe she'll come back. Mary will come back. Maybe she'll pop back on. I hope. There she is. But the places that we are being seen is amazing. For instance, since 2009, when I started the YouTube channel, we are up to 4,041,431 views.
Wait, say that number again.
431 views since 2009.
You know, not only is that a big, big number, but all those fours, that's a God number.
Yep.
Holy smokes.
Now, we have got, in the U.S. alone, 1,899,719 views, just in the U.S. In the United Kingdom, 507,015. Canada, 295,109. That's just the top three. As I go down the list, which would take me an hour and a half, we are seen all over the world. What I do for these authors is I put up a 7-second video about their book. Right now we're doing Santa and Christmas. It goes up on YouTube, it goes up on our website, which has its own amazing numbers. And then I put it up on all of our social media. Mary, how many publishers do you know that do that?
You?
Just saying, ladies and gentlemen, just saying. And I'm going to tell you something else. Yesterday, I put up Mary's new book, The One Left Behind, which she sent me yesterday.
Yesterday morning at 2:30.
It went up on Amazon yesterday for release on the 15th. I turned around and did a 7-second video using Santa Claus and the Christmas theme. As of this morning, there were 171 views just on that video.
That's crazy.
So the whole point of this, and we're going to keep saying this until people get it, because if they don't get it, I won't publish them. It's that simple. I'm not going to have time as we keep growing to go back and recreate covers.
Between Andrea, Gwendolyn, and me, I mean, I'm not bragging. And Gwendolyn and I have a little bantering back and forth online about who's in competition, who has the most books out. I've been Y'all don't understand. If you never knew me before, it might not seem like a big deal. Yvonne's known me for 20 years or more. So she knows the way I am and the way I used to be. She knows that 4 months ago, I was hesitant to trust the process. I trusted Yvonne, and I know there are people that don't know Yvonne, but even if I knew her 1,000 years, I still would have had the same me inside. I didn't trust very many people. My trust had been shattered. I didn't know how to trust the process. I didn't want to trust the process because, you know what? I'm not going to say I'm as smart as Yvonne, but I'm almost as smart as Yvonne. I'm a very intelligent person. And she and I've gone through a lot of the same hard knocks in life. But I had this thought in my head, if Joe Schmo can do books on Amazon, I can do books on Amazon. It's not rocket science. It's not that difficult. But Yvonne has a method, a process, I don't know if I want to say formula, but she has a standard of doing things a certain way. And it looks a lot easier to people who have never worked in it. I know exactly how hard it is. But my problem was releasing control. I used to be. I'm not going to say I still am. I used to be a control freak. I had to do it myself. It was one of those, if you want something done right, do it yourself. I was raised that way. When I first came on board with Yvonne, I was really very skeptical. And I understand how other people can be. I gave her a floppy disk and I said, here's 3 books. 2 of them are mine. 1 of them is Linda Humphrey's. I've been fighting with Linda Humphrey's book for over a year. I can't get it up. Amazon just won't take it. My other 2 books one's already on Amazon. The other one needs to go. Y'all, 3 days later, she not only had Linda's book up that was bane of my existence, but she had my 2 books up within 72 hours. And at first I'm thinking, oh, well, that's because they were basically already done. She had all the images. She just needed to plug them all in. No, 1 month later, she told me, she said, well, I've done these books. If you've got any more children's books, send them on. I'll take care of the graphics. Because I'm still like holding on to my little precious. I've got to make sure that they look exactly like I want them. Well, they don't. They look better. Within 1 month, 4 weeks, 30 days, whatever you want to call it, Yvonne took 6 of my children's books and turned them into brilliance. Now, I didn't write all these books in a month. I've had them on my computer for years and years and decades. But what Yvonne has done is she has given me the freedom to let my creativity soar. And every now and then I'll get a brand new book comes into my head and it takes precedence, like Ramonda's extended warranty. Because I have agreed to trust the process. I've agreed to let go, let Yvonne and let God handle it. Then all of a sudden it opens me up so that when I am in those early morning, you're awake but you're not because you haven't had coffee, and if you haven't even touched the floor yet and you see something, but did I really see that little girl standing there? No, I must have been dreaming. No, there was a little girl standing next to my bed. Nobody else saw her. Nobody else was home. But nobody else saw her because she was a spirit. And she looked vaguely familiar because I've seen photos of Ramonda over the years. But when she said, hey, I'm like, hello, who are you? She said, I'm Ramonda. Come on, we gotta go. You need to write my book. I can't deny that kind of miracle. To me, that's a miracle that I saw her, I acknowledged her, and I was able to actually work with her. So in 2 days, I wrote the book, brand new from scratch. She kind of just put the ideas in my head, and I discussed it with her Nana, Yvonne, because I didn't want to blindside her and go, oh, by the way, here's my new manuscript, it's about your granddaughter. So we talked about it first, and she said, go for it. And then she gave me a little more information that helped me add some meat to the book. And that was, to me, that was the best proof for how good it is to follow the process. To release it, let it go. All we need to do as authors is write the manuscript. Follow the guidelines. Do it the way Yvonne says to do it. And let her run with it. Still can't get over it. Because how many books have I sent you since Ramonda? 3? 2 more, right?
More.
The 1,000 words and
1,000 words
3
from the balcony.
Black and
The one left behind, and then the one you sent me this morning. 4.
yeah, I sent her one this morning at 4:30.
And I'm working on it.
A minute, I'll take a minute sometime to take a break, and then I'll go right back at it and do another book. Not working on anything right now because my brain does need a break.
The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, when Mary gave herself permission to let go and to allow Midnight Publishing do what Midnight Publishing does, she feels differently inside. She feels
I'm a
lighter.
different woman. I'm not
She's
who I was a month
happier.
ago.
She's more creative because the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical are all lining up, because the subconscious is not saying, oh, I've got this to do, this. Oh, when am I going to be able to write? No, I got to go back and I got to do this, and I've got all these books in here. The brain was in overload, and it short circuits. I have lived my life by such a strict regiment. Thank you, Mother. I fought her tooth and nail, but my mother knew what she was doing. That I planned my day. When I was a child, and when I had to help my mother do chores, in my head I planned when I was going to do a certain chore. For instance, if I needed to do the dishes, to mop and wax the floors, and to change the sheets and put a load in the wash machine, the first thing that I did was strip the beds and put them in the wash machine. Then I came up and I washed the dishes. Then I went back down and put them in the dryer and came up and mop and waxed the floors. Then I went down and got the sheets out of the washing machine and the dryer and put them back on the beds. So I have lived my life by a regiment. When my husband was alive, I lived by my date book.
Oh, I bet.
I lived by a regiment. When I was in college at 52, 53, and 54 years old, because I did not go to college out of high school, I was working 16 hours a day plus going to college. I studied all the time. People would say, well, you need to come and go out with us. No, I have to study.
Yeah.
Because of that, I graduated at the top of my class with honors, with a degree in criminal justice. The whole point of this is my business is a regiment. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is turn this computer on, see what Mary sent me, see what Gwendolyn sent me, and I put it in
Let's
folders,
see
and
if
whoever
Andrea has a
pops
surprise for you.
and whoever pops up first, that's the one first in line to get done, and then the second one, and then the third one, and I have them all lined up,
And you've got 20 of us.
and it works. If I get tired, I walk away. Sometimes I've been known to get up in the middle of the night and work because I can't sleep because the voices won't shut up. But that's me. I never slept much. But the whole point of this is when authors want to butt heads with me, especially new authors who are brand new to this business, who do not have a clue what it takes, A, to put a cover together, B, to put a book together, C, to publish that book, because if I don't do what Amazon tells me to do, they're going to kick it back.
It will not
If
go.
the wording is this much over their little red line, they're going to kick it back and say, no, you got to go back and fix this. So I have to tear apart that cover and start all over from scratch.
And what's
So when an author comes,
the hard
Go
thing
ahead.
for me to watch from the sidelines is some of these brand new authors. They're not just new to Midnight Publishing, or like when Gwendolyn finally got the courage to get her book out. They're brand new to the idea of being an author. Some of them have come to us with hey, I've got an idea for a book, and we're thinking, oh, they've been working on this book for a year. I mean, I worked on a book for 40 some odd years before I got it out. And I know that Steep Steps, my novel, took 8 years from the idea to the final, I'm ready, let it go. Some people come to us with, I got an idea for a book. Well, they haven't been working on it for even a week. They just have an idea. And then they want us to turn their idea into a book. That is not how it works. The writer has to write the book, not AI, not your publisher, you. Then you present it to us, and Yvonne does her magic.
We are not in the mentoring business.
Not anymore. And I say that
We're in
because
the-
I know Yvonne and I both have mentored in the past, but that's not what we're being called to do right now.
We are in the publishing business. We're in the business to get authors out there that have not been able to get out there, that have gone to vanity presses and private printers and spent thousands of dollars they did not have just to say, I'm a published author. To me, that is a sacrilege. It is a disservice to a author, especially in the indie world. It's hard enough for indies to get out there because indies don't have the money to hire an agent, the money to send query letters all over God's little green acre just to have them sit at the bottom of their emails or go into their trash or to go into their spam folder, to going to vanity presses that say, oh yeah, we'll publish you for nothing, but you got to buy this many books. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, those books will sit in your closet until hell freezes over. You will never sell all of those books. There's no way.
And if
Been
they
there,
don't,
done that.
if they don't tell you that you have to buy X number of books, they will tell you that you owe them after the fact.
Exactly. We will publish your book for nothing, but you're going to pay for the cover. You're going to pay for the formatting. You're going to pay for the editing, but we'll publish it for nothing. In other words, we'll put it up on Amazon for nothing for you. But you're going to pay for all these services because they have to pay their employees.
Yes.
You want an illustrator to illustrate your children's book? Good luck.
$1,000 for some of them.
Not saying that there's not some good illustrators out there, but I'm going to tell you the junk that I'm seeing coming out now, leaves a lot to be desired. It's like that the money is the main objective. It's not the meat of the book. It's not the telling of the story. It's let's throw it out there so I can get paid. No, please don't get sucked in by that.
I mean, it would be nice. Well, it is nice. I've gotten paid for my books, but I've worked hard to sell them. I go to events, like we're going to be going to an event in a couple of weeks at Relentless Horse Barn in Melbourne, and we're going to be selling all of my new books, and we're going to be introducing people to Midnight Publishing. It's not easy, folks, and the older we get, the harder it gets. You got to pack up tables, you got to pack up a tent, you got to take chairs. Then you got to bring all the good stuff, all the fun stuff, the books and whatever else you've got to give away or sell. Amazon makes it easier to kind of be a little passive and sit back. But I'm not a passive type person. You market. I would love to be a bestseller, to be making mega bucks, to have Netflix or Amazon come along and say, hey, we want to turn your book into a show or a movie or what. That's the dream. That's the Hallmark movie dream. But even if I never sell another book, I will keep writing because I'm a writer. I have to write or I stop existing. I stop living. My husband is so excited because every day now, or every 2 or 3 days, I've been telling him, I just sent Yvonne a new manuscript. I'm no longer even asking him to read them or to preview them. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, if I get another novel, I will have readers read it ahead of time to make sure it flows. But I've been writing long enough, I pretty much know what I'm doing. He gets so excited. He says, I have been asking you and pushing you and urging you to write. And you just started in August to really get the books out. And it's because I've given myself permission to be an author and not try to be a person who writes books in their spare time. It's not a hobby.
A nice hobby. I've been told, oh, you have a nice hobby. This is not a hobby, ladies and gentlemen. This is a lifelong passion. When I am working on books for the authors and I'm marketing and I'm thinking of new ways to get these guys out there, I don't work a day in my life. Even when I am calling bingo at another phase in this mobile home park, I'm thinking of marketing ideas for the authors. I mean, calling bingo is like a mindless job, but the fact is, the passion with us is not what you're going to find anywhere else.
No.
Because it's a job to them. When you have an editor who is reading your book for edits, it's a job. Okay, let me see here. When I am reading these authors' books, it's a story in my head. It's like a movie. And in that movie, the cover starts forming. And this is what I tell every author. The front of the book, the front cover of that book begins that story. If when you are scrolling through Amazon or you're looking for a book and maybe Amazon pops that cover up on your email for some reason and that cover knocks you between the eyes, you say, I gotta go see what that book's about.
I'll tell you something too. If you want to know what's happening in an author's world, it doesn't matter which author. I don't care if it's Stephen King or Yvonne Mason. Go to Amazon and follow that author. You will get an email every time a new book downloads.
You will.
And it's
And,
cool
and
to be able to be on the cutting edge, and you're one of the first people to know that they put a book out.
and when you get that book, case in point, let me just pull this book up. Hold on a minute. Come here, book. Okay. This author, I love her to death, but when we started her journey, she fought me. Felt like I was raising children again, because she didn't want her name on the cover because she said that it was God's words. I said, I understand that. But you also have to understand that God gave you a brain and the ability to be able to do this. And it's okay for you to have credit for your book. So she also fought me on the cover. But we finally settled on a cover. And then she didn't fight me on the back cover, because the front of this cover starts the story. Open hearts and safe haven prayers. So somebody says, what does this mean? Well, when you flip it around, there's a cross in that tree. The roots of that tree are God. God doesn't move. So in this book are prayers and scriptures that Carol Balavance did.
And I like the way that's written, God inspired, written by Carol.
So then the second book that she and I talked about on my front porch, when I sent her the cover, she didn't argue about the cover, and she didn't argue about her name on the cover, because this first book started the story. When Mary sent me the 6 books that she sent me, the 6 children's books, after If I Could Be a Mermaid, which I thought was going to send Mary into total heart palpitations. When she sent me the other books, I said, we're going to take your books in a different direction. Now, If I Could Be a Mermaid, I did with AI. And the book is alive. It's a live book. The other books I did with AI, but the pictures in those books are like photographs. And we went to an event where people were going, oh, that looks like so-and-so, and that looks like so-and-so, and oh, that looks like so-and-so. Grown-ups relate to Mary's books, her children's books, because they're done with love. They're done in a relatable way. So yeah, we're starting a trend of using AI, and I guarantee you this time next year there will be more houses out there that do what we are doing. But just remember, you saw it first here. So I know we harp on trust in the process, but I have to, because number one, I really don't want to lose any authors. However, I cannot and will not butt heads with authors.
And you've got somebody like Yvonne who is, for all practical purposes, donating her time. She's giving selflessly to other authors in the name of God, in the name of service. That doesn't mean that she's going to sit back and let you abuse her.
No.
She has guidelines for a reason, and I've seen too many cases already where they get the guidelines and then they do nothing. They don't even bother to read them. Or if they read them, they don't understand them. And if they don't understand them, they're not asking questions to learn. And I can tell you, either Yvonne or I would be thrilled to teach you or anybody else how to follow the guidelines. In fact, that's going to be one of our first classes after the new year. We're going to be talking about why it's so important to follow the guidelines, why we have them in the first place. Kind of goes hand in hand with my Too Many Rules book. We have them for a reason, and we'll explain all that during our class. But it breaks my heart when Yvonne calls me and says, oh, I just got another manuscript, and it's in the body of the email. or somebody's sending me a chapter at the time. No! I mean, if you want to send Yvonne a chapter at the time, be prepared to wait a chapter at the time, because she's going to have to then take all of those chapters, put them into a document. She can't do anything with a chapter. That's not how it works.
And when I have to put them in a document, I have to open up a blank document and copy and paste each chapter into that document. And you know what happens when you do that?
Things get messed up.
Things get lost, and it gets messed up. You have to go back and spending hours when all they had to do was send me a completed, and never, ever, 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 please, never, ever, ever send me your first draft.
No.
Because when I send the draft back to you and say, this is getting ready to go up, and you go, oh, I need to add 3 more chapters. No. No. When you send me that manuscript, you better be ready for me to do what I do to get it up. I don't sit on books. Mary will tell you. You don't wait a year, 6 months.
Less than a 24-hour turnaround. I gave her the one left behind at 2 o'clock in the morning, and by noon it was ready. She sent me a cover. She sent me the first video. She said, I've got it geared, it's in line to go live on the 15th. Wait, I thought there were people ahead of me. And there are 2 people ahead of me that are not trusting the process. They're not willing.
And they're in limbo.
They're not willing to follow the guidelines. And because of that, even though they came first, they're at the bottom of the pile because Yvonne can't do anything with the work they've sent her. And so one of them's on vacation, and when she comes back, she might get around to getting her book done. But the other one, there are a lot of things you can't. I mean, you can do it, but if you want Yvonne's help, and you're not willing to trust Yvonne, you need to keep moving on, because she has a vision. And folks, I've known her long enough to know she will never put her name on something that is substandard. She'll never put her name on something that feels amateurish.
Oh.
And she will not support you in your journey if you don't support yourself enough to take her advice and listen. And you can't give her the manuscript and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not finished, but hurry up and get this done. It doesn't work that way. And
no,
if you just happened to sign with one of the big 6 publishing houses, they wouldn't even give you the time of day. You have to trust in them. And once you sign a contract, and this is something that Yvonne and I've talked about, we're going to start having our authors sign contracts. Just because we're not charging you or giving you a royalty up front or an advance, it doesn't make us any less professional. And we've discussed how a contract will help the authors feel more credible. But if you work with a bigger publishing house, God bless you, because you sign that contract and then you belong to them.
you're a product.
You become a product.
Commodity.
And your books become byproducts, and they're going to tell you, and usually they don't just sign you for this one book. They'll sign you for a 3-book deal or a 2-book deal. And that means you're now on their clock. They expect you to come through with the next book. And y'all, I can tell you, I've got readers who've read Steep Steps They are waiting anxiously, eagerly, impatiently for me to do a sequel. Because where I left the book off, I'm not going to say it was unsatisfying, but it wasn't necessarily fulfilling for a reader. Or sometimes we need a little more. And, the book can't be this big. You can't afford it if it's that thick. So they have to wait. But if I was working with a different publisher, they'd already be hounding me and pounding on my door saying, we need pages, we need chapters, we need to know, where are you? Why haven't you finished this book? You'll never get that from Yvonne. If you don't want to finish your book, no skin off our back. It would be nice if you deliver what you promise. But I think sometimes when people work with the bigger publishing houses and they ask them, ask the author, well, have you got any more books that you can send? We like your style. You got any more books in this genre? Oh yeah, I can get you something in 6 weeks. Maybe you can and maybe you can't. It depends on how fast you write and how far along you are. But I can tell you the way my creative process works. I can't even think about the sequel to Steep Steps until I clear off all these books that have been just lying on my computer for years. It's like they're screaming at me to help me get out. And I'd forgotten about the Lizard Patrol when I told you it was not on my list.
And now we have
Yes,
it.
now you have the book.
And I have already started working. We're going to do it as a graphic novel. I've already got the cover, the front cover, in the folder. I've got the graphics, some of the graphics, because I'm going story by story and going up and going, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And another thing, ladies and gentlemen, that Midnight Publishing does that I would venture to say other houses don't do. They don't get into the book and pull out the story for the cover or for graphics. All they're into doing is getting the book published. There's nothing personalized from that publisher for that author. If that makes any sense.
It makes sense to me. I understand what you're saying. That's why you see a lot of covers that are plain, because they have no imagination for it.
And they don't allow, I would venture to say that most publishing houses are not filled with creative people. They're there to get a paycheck. It's a job. And after a while, if you're not creative, it can become a boring job. And when it becomes boring, then one becomes ineffective. As with any job, when you dread going to work, then you become ineffective and inefficient. And you do sloppy work. And as time goes on, and I've been a reader since before I started school. And as time goes on, I see book covers come out and I'm going, what in the world were they thinking? It's not an attractive cover. It doesn't jump out. Why would I even want to open it if the cover is this bad? How bad is the story? Think about that. If the cover is this bad, how bad is the story inside?
And that's one reason this idiom came into play probably 100 years ago. Don't judge a book by its cover. Think about that.
There you go.
How many times do you pick up a book, put it back on the shelf? Or you're browsing Amazon and you're looking at the covers, you're reading the descriptions. But if you're not going to read the description, if the cover makes you go, meh, you want to stand out from the crowd. You want to let Yvonne share her vision with you for your book because you can't go wrong.
And you also have to understand that Midnight Publishing is a brand. And with any brand, when I put that brand on your book, that is a reflection on Midnight Publishing. You are the brand for your book. Your book is a byproduct. So when someone comes to me and says, well, I want to write this book in this narrative, and I want it to look this way, and I want it to be this way, and I want this and I want that, that's all well and good. But does your brand shine through that cover?
And this is why some writers only write in one genre, because they want to be known for that genre. That's their brand. Well, my brand, folks, is willy-nilly Crazy Mary all over the place. I think I've written now in 7 different genres.
At least.
Because my mind can't grasp just writing fantasy novels or just sticking to cookbooks. I do a little, you won't find me writing a cookbook, so get that out of your head. But, I mean, if it is, it'll be more like the anarchist cookbook or something, not blasphemy, there's another word I'm thinking of.
Hypocrisy?
I don't know. I can't even think, maybe. But it will be not standard issue, that's for sure.
Mary and I are going to be meeting for lunch next Tuesday?
Tuesday, the 9th.
Next Tuesday. And we are putting together our schedule for the new year for workshops via Zoom. And I know the first words out of everybody's mouth is, oh great, how much is it? 0.
Maybe if somebody wants to, they can donate money and pay for a lunch or pay for a cup of coffee. But really and truly, we want to do this for free because it's important for both Yvonne and me to give back. It's important for us to use this as a way to say thank you, God, for all the blessings we've received. And we've both received so many.
So many. And we have authors all over the country. What we are going to ask people to do is sign up so that we know who to send the Zoom email to for signing in on the day of the Zoom. And our first workshop is going to be on trusting the process and why. Then we will teach you how to put a manuscript together. We will teach you how to take the marketing that I put out there and you use it to continue marketing. I have to give Ellie Ryan such kudos. This girl knew nothing about the publishing world. Once she found out just how much of a challenge it was, she was on board 100%. But once she learned what she needed to do on her end, she's embraced it. I mean, in her last month,
she was our bestseller.
On Midnight Publishing. And she's already started selling books this month, and this is only the 3rd day of the month. We already have sales going on here at Midnight Publishing through Amazon, and it's only the 3rd day of the month. And I have to tell you a story, Mary, that you will appreciate. Brandy called me and she said, Mama, a lady at work wants Ramonda's book. I said, okay. She said, will you order it, have it shipped to me, and then I'll send you the money when she pays me? I said, sure. So she told the lady it had been ordered, and the lady said, I want you to sign it for me. And Brandy said, oh, no. I did not write that book. I am not taking Miss Mary's thunder. That is Miss Mary's book. She wrote it. I said, Brandy, I think Mary will be okay if you write a little note, thank you for buying Miss Mary's book about Ramonda's story, and sign it. I'm sure Miss Mary will be okay with it. She said, I'm not taking Miss Mary's thunder.
No,
That's her book.
we chatted yesterday about this. So I told Brandy to get her co-worker's name and address for me. And I also told Brandy I want yours too. I will create an insert for them to put in the book and use as a bookmark. And I will
Nice.
sign that for them. I haven't started that little project yet. That's down the road. But
Well, they haven't got they get the books tomorrow, so.
that's fine. But I will, you've seen my little embosser that I use. I'll emboss it with my logo and I will sign it. And once I have their name, then I can personalize it.
And y'all have to understand, this is Brandy's daughter that Mary wrote about. And with everything that has gone on this year with her husband, this book has been a gift to my daughter. Mary, I don't think, realizes what she did for Brandy. Because this child was having an asthma attack. It blew out the brainstem, and her father tried to save her in their living room with her siblings and her aunt and her mother watching. Her father was a volunteer fireman and a first responder. He was a certified EMT. And because of his unselfish act of doing CPR on Ramonda, it allowed her organs to be viable for donation. So her heart was donated to a 12-year-old girl who had 2 weeks to live. That girl is now
In her 20s.
in her 20s, and I don't know what God had for her, what purpose he had, but we know what Ramonda's purpose was. So for Mary to graciously write a graphic novel, it is fiction based on truth, it has been a very special gift to my daughter and her family, and I thank you for that,
You
Mary.
are so welcome. I feel like I've been touched by an angel. I feel so honored and so blessed to have met Ramonda in such a way. It would have been that easy for me to go, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. I can't. That was a figment of my imagination. And she would have gone away. Because that's how spirit works. If you ignore it, whether it's an angel, a deceased loved one, or someone you've never met before, if you ignore them, they just move on. In fact, I speak frequently to my husband's deceased mother. She died years before I met him. But she comes and she talks to me. And the first time she did this, Curtis was standing right there, and I'm translating or relaying her messages to him. And he said, you know, Mom and I used to talk all the time. I don't know why I can't hear her anymore. And quick as a wink, I heard, because he's too damn busy. And she said he's stressed out and he needs to relax more. Well, he relaxed for about 30 minutes and that was it. He's a lot like me in that respect, or a lot like I used to be. I mean, seriously, Midnight Publishing has changed my life. It's changed the way I look at things. It's changed how I receive things. And this is something that I wrote about in my newest book, The Lizard Patrol, about how human women think we have to do it all. And human men don't dare imply that we're not capable of doing it all. So we, like the old song says, we bring home the bacon, we fry it up in the pan, then we wash the dishes. Well, we're also complaining about it half the time. We work, we work, we work. And that's all we do. And we struggle mentally because we want to ask for help, but we're afraid that if we ask for help, number one, it's going to make us look weak. Number two, what if they refuse? Then we've got resentment on top of resentment. And the men in our lives, whether they're our sons, our brothers, our husbands, or whatever, they're not going to offer because they don't want to detract from our power. And now these days, there's all these young women saying, I don't need a man. I can do this, that, and the other. Well, my father, just like yours, Yvonne, taught me many things as a young girl. I knew how to change the oil in my car. I knew how to change the tires. But I will tell you, I've never had to change a tire in my life. Because when I was married to Mr. Stingy, who didn't put good things on my cars, I had a lot of flat tires. But I always had an angel that looked like a human come at the right moment to fix my tire for me. And then I married Curtis, and he makes sure that the tires on my car especially are always in good shape, because he doesn't ever want me to have a flat tire.
And also, Mary, going back to when we do ask someone to help us and they don't do it like we would do it.
Oh my God!
We go back and redo it. And that puts that person, well, you weren't grateful.
You weren't grateful. You didn't appreciate it. They'll never offer it again. I can remember when I was a youngster, 4 sisters, 4 brothers in the family. The 4 girls were doing the dishes, and the youngest one was probably 4 or 5 years old. And she wanted to help. She wanted to be with her sisters and doing the things the big girls did. And somebody said something, well, you're too little. You can't reach the sink. And she said, well, give me a broom. I'll sweep the floor. And somebody said, well, you're not going to get it all up. You just can't do it right. And she said, me sweep it twice. And we still talk about it because that was the way she said it. I'll sweep it twice. I mean, she was willing to do the work, to be a part of the community, the family. And there were the ones in the family that if it wasn't done right the first time, you can't do it again. But one of my big lessons came before I joined Midnight Publishing, came before you started Midnight Publishing. The biggest lesson for me was it is okay to need help. It doesn't mean you're weak or inferior, but it's also okay to ask for help. And if you don't ask for help and somebody offers to help you, it is more than okay to accept it. Because sometimes people see us, and that's exactly what you're doing with Midnight Publishing. You are offering help that authors may not have realized they even needed. It's here, it's free, it's professional, and it comes with so many extra bells and whistles that they wouldn't get anywhere else. And I can say this because I did it the hard way. I formatted my own books. I shopped out the printers and found the best deal and spent thousands of dollars getting my first set of books. And then I spent a little less getting fewer books, and I spent less getting the next set of books. And then I started going, well, why don't I just put them on Amazon? Why am I going through all this trouble? If other people can do it, I can do it. And I could. But Yvonne's been in this industry a little longer than I have. And she's gotten it down to a science, folks. That's how I can send her a manuscript at 2 o'clock in the morning, and by noon I have another book. And I know that a lot of people think, I don't know what they think about me. I'm not even trying to get into that. But they probably wonder some weird things. Like, how is she getting so many books out? I've been writing practically all my life. Ever since I've owned a computer, I have had my books, my stories, my journal entries digitized. They've just been sitting there, and they've traveled with me from computer to computer. And I always have a backup. That's another thing that Curtis has made sure that I remember to back up my files and make sure that they're on the proper drive so that when we do a major I think I just unplugged something. But,
Oh,
well, so far I'm still here. But anyway, that's part of the asking for help or taking help that's offered that you don't necessarily know you need to ask for. But I've had all these files, all these books, all these stories, and now I'm just compiling them. The children's books were easy because they were just one document. But the other books like this, the Lizard Patrol, the One Left Behind, 1,000 Words, those were all individual stories that didn't necessarily have anything to do with each other. They were stories that I wrote for my critique group mostly. They said, we're meeting tonight or next week. We need a story from you, Mary. Okay, whatever. And I wasn't working on a novel, so I couldn't take them a chapter until I did, and then I took them a chapter. But I've got all these books waiting for me to finish and just get them in Yvonne's hands. And I'll do another one.
let's circle back around to critique groups for
Yeah.
a minute. I've been in several, and I have to say I've been very disappointed in those critique groups. And the reason being, now remember, I go way back to the beginning of indie authors. And I've sat in these critique groups and I've listened to them literally rip each other apart.
No.
And not only rip each other apart, but look at someone like they've got two heads when they say, and how many books do you have published? None yet, but I'm working on one. And then they attack this person like they're worse than the plague. If you are going to be involved in a critique group or a beta writers group or a beta readers group or any of those groups that are now out there, make sure it is a fit for you. Because if there's one person in that group that continually criticizes whatever you're putting out there, that group is not for
Yeah.
you. That person is totally self-absorbed. They're lacking something in their psychic that they see that you have and they want it. The 3 true crimes that I have written, I have had people come back at me and say, how could you write something like that? It's horrible. No, it wasn't horrible. It was raw. And when I say raw, it's in your face. It is not watered down. It is filled with crime scene photos that are hard to look at. It is filled with interviews that will make you want to throw up. It is filled with excerpts from a book that one of the Gerard Schaefer wrote, and it was his confessions, but he wrote it as a novel. My true crimes are not soft. I don't sugarcoat.
Crime
What
isn't
happens
soft,
to victims?
Yvonne.
No, it is not. And the thing is, I don't want the readers to feel sorry for the people that committed these crimes. They were well thought out, they were well premeditated, they knew what they were doing, and because of it, not only were the victims no longer with us, but those families were victims as well.
Yes.
And they will never, ever not be victims. So when somebody comes at me sideways and says, Yvonne, how could you? My answer is, how could I not? Number one, my background says if you write it like it's a soft shell novel with, oh, what was her first puppy like? Was he abused as a child? That's why he was an idiot and killed 9 women and young girls because he was an idiot? No, there's no excuse. So if you read my true crime and you come back at me sideways, I'm going to say, well, I warned you. That is why Silent Scream has been on the ID channel 8 times, 2 of those in Europe.
Yeah.
That is why a gentleman came from France and interviewed Jack and myself and did a documentary because his wife was killed by a serial killer. And he wanted to understand the mechanics of that serial killer's mind. Talk about humbling to try to explain to this gentleman what was running through that serial killer's mind and why he did what he did. Why did the guy in Oregon shoot his wife in the back of the head and cut her body up in different parts and throw her in the Columbia River in different places in potato sacks? Because he was evil. Why did the 2 guys pick up the girl coming from Melbourne, hitchhiking down to Key West, take her off to a side street in Fort Pierce and rape and execute her? Because they were evil. And that's what I write about, the evilness. So when you read our books, read them with an open mind. All of our authors. When you read our authors' books, September's Chill will make your hair stand on end. That's by Gwendolyn Law. But there's a purpose for your hair standing on end. Either you've been abused, know someone who is, or you're an abuser.
Yeah.
This is what you do to people. When you read Mary's book, From the Balcony, that book will set your teeth on edge because it was her anger phase of grief. And there were people she wanted to toss off of the balcony.
Yeah, it's really funny because I mentioned that to Curtis yesterday, and he said, oh, I remember some of the stories. I said, yeah, but you haven't read the final book. You don't know what I've added to it. And but I didn't use anybody's real names, and I crisscrossed genders. I changed body types. In my head, I know exactly who I'm killing. But I deliberately made them not resemble anybody I know. But the purpose was to give me a way to vent my anger when my mother died. I was furious. And I've never had that happen with anybody else that I've lost. And grief changes every time. And that was why right after doing From the Balcony, I had to do The One Left Behind. Because I needed to cleanse my mental palate, basically. And write something that was more spiritual.
And The One Left Behind, like, it will be released on the 15th if I don't go in and change it, which I can. I've been known to do that. That book encompasses not just being left behind from death. Relationships go sideways, children get estranged, parents get estranged, friends outgrow friends, a job, you lose it, or somebody leaves the job that you care about. It's about grief in general. It's about being left behind.
You could lose your cell phone. And especially today, that can cause...
Mary, continue. Let me go see who's at my door.
Losing your cell phone can cause undue grief because, number one, it's a lost thing. And number two, we're so attached to our cell phones. The people of a certain age remember when we didn't have cell phones, and it's not quite the same as it is to the younger generations that has never known not having a cell phone. So there are a lot of ways to suffer grief, to suffer loss, to suffer the pain The pain is very real. And I don't care. Some of the things that I've lost in my life, I lost a marriage through divorce. I've had friends, women friends, break up with me. And for whatever reason, they just say, we're no longer friends. I've had friends who said, look, I'm not really good at the long distance stuff. Don't be sending me mail. So I remember I lost a ring. Someone had given me a ring to help me remember my firstborn, who was stillborn. And losing that ring felt devastating to me. So there are so many things that we can lose that hurt us viscerally. And that's why I wrote the book.
And we all handle grief in a different way.
Yes. And I handle grief differently for every loss. It's
So do I.
bizarre. Because, I remember when my mother's sister's husband died, my uncle. My knees buckled and I collapsed and I could not function. I was much, much closer to his wife, who was my mother's sister. And when I heard that she had passed, I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to her funeral. That's really too bad. When my father died, I didn't shed a tear for 8 years, and then I did. My mother died, I probably cried for 8 years. So we deal with things differently for every single loss, because every relationship is different.
And as you see, she writes many different things. And it's
Yeah, I write spiritual stuff, I write novels about sex addiction. I write children's books, but my children's books they're either informational. Well, I guess they're all informational because the spiritual stuff is inspirational too. Informational. But I write memoirs. I write true stories based on fiction based on truth. I can't even get my words out. I write humor. I write graphic novels. Little bit of whatever has to be. And my book, 1,000 Words, is a combination. It's got fiction and nonfiction in it. And I would love for somebody to read it and then come back and either reach out to me on my social media or through my email address, which is in all my books now, and tell me which stories you think were true and which stories you think were false. You might be surprised.
So we're going to get off from here so I can go bowling. And we will meet next Tuesday for lunch and get our
curriculum set up.
Our curriculum set up.
Oh, one thing I've got to remember. I want to think it's May. You and I are going to be doing a presentation for the Space Coast Writers Guild, I think it is, for their writers conference. We still have to come up with a title and figure out what we're actually going to present, but that's another thing we're going to be doing.
We can do that too when we have lunch. We can do that as well.
But all that
stuff.
And who knows, by next week I might have another 3 books out.
It's possible.
But once I get all my books done, then I'm going to take a break and actually start writing again.
Yeah, okay. Let me know how it works out.
I'll let you know.
So, ladies and gentlemen, remember, trust the process. If you tell me you're going to trust the process and then you come back with all this other stuff, that's telling me that you're not trusting the process.
And
you're giving me lip service.
You can get fired from us for that.
I don't do lip service.
You may be released.
Yeah. So I am going to say, be as kind to people as they are to you, and have the day that you deserve. And we will do a live in the morning, and we will be back here, Lord willing, next Wednesday with all kinds of new
I
information.
hope you get a turkey today.
Yeah, that's not
You
going
don't
to
do
happen.
3 strikes in a row.
No. I do good to do one strike in 3 games.
But you have fun.
I do.
Yeah.
So until next Wednesday, have a
Bye,
good one.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.